What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Talking Tuesdays, May 28th, 10-game slate. Nice slate here on a Monday night, recovering from, of course, the long weekend of fun, maybe too much fun, but feeling good here on Monday afternoon, ready to break down these games as usual. Joined by Steve Boyden on a Tuesday. Steve, yesterday you had the combination of Memorial Day and your birthday falling on the same day, which that'd be a dangerous combination for me. But you look well as you could this Tuesday afternoon. How you doing? How was your weekend? And what do you think of the slate overall?
Yeah, feeling better than I thought I was going to today for the show. I had a fun weekend. My Orioles were in town. Went to a couple games here against the White Sox. That was fun. And yeah, we had a successful weekend in the Discord. I know you had a big hit on Saturday. That's exciting. It's always good to get one, in your back pocket. It kind of allows you to be a little more loose moving forward, maybe take some more chances. So, that's always fun. And yeah, we have a 10-gamer today with, I think, a lot of pitching options, at least in play. I haven't really decided where I'm going for my main lineup here. I think there are a bunch of options like up top, mid-range, and down low. So excited to get into it.
Yeah, I think a really fun slate. We do have some early games that aren't included. Of course, we'll just talk about the ones that are. And Saturday score was one. I was sick all day Friday and still kind of feeling under the weather on Saturday morning. So just played the one lineup, right? And I think I built it from my phone. I didn't look at like ownership, or it's just kind of it wasn't like even a full stack, just kind of willy-nilly through the guys I thought were my favorite plays. And of course, that's the one that gets there. But most days it's like researching all day. Kind of goes to show you, if you do this stuff every day, you kind of know, right? You don't need to dig into the exact numbers every day. And there's multiple ways, of course, to get to the top. So hopefully more decent scores coming. I know some RPS members have had some big scores recently, and we'll try to keep it moving. Hit the like button if you are here joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. And we do need to address Adios Angel Hernandez. Just seems like he's basically booted out of the league. You don't really see umpires just hanging up, mid-season too often. But it does seem like the challenge system is coming next year, from what I can understand. And Hernandez piecing out early. It does seem, I don't know if you've had this impression, it does seem like a lot of the, especially veteran umpires, seems like they're doing a worse job this year than ever. I think part of it maybe because they just don't care anymore because they know they're going to be replaced by the robots soon. Have you had any take on it? I don't have the data around it or anything like that, but have you any take on the umpiring this year, Steve?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's because, year over year, it's more and more focused. There's more data, we're following every single game, it feels like. But it does seem like there have been a lot of games with not, like one big missed call, but it is egregiously missed strike calls in big spots too. Like you said, it tends to be leaning towards the older crowd. So could be seeing a changing of the guard. They're testing a couple things in the minor leagues too, especially with the challenging of the pitches. I think we might see that here in the next couple of years, which I think is overdue. And, if it works, we have it in all the other major sports. So, I'm excited for it. We're not going to miss Angel. So, wasn't too upset to hear that news this morning.
No, I don't think anybody was. And the challenge system looks good to me. I mean, the managers aren't involved in any way. It's just the pitcher, catcher, and the guy at the plate that can challenge. They've got to do it pretty much right after the pitch. And from what I've seen, on the videos, like it seems to not be very intrusive in terms of slowing down the game or anything like that. So I think it'd be a good change. I'd like to see that first over the completely automated ball strike system. But obviously we'll We'll see. I think maybe as soon as next year, though, we could see that. So in any case, let's get into today's slate. First game on the slate is at 7:20 Eastern, so a few more minutes to make those lineups, finalize your lineups than we typically have. It is the Washington Nationals and the Atlanta Braves. Of course, the Braves lost Acuna on, I believe that was Sunday, out for the year, torn ACL. Bummer there. We talked about it yesterday on the show, but I'm sure some of you guys missed that one. Does make the Braves easier to stack, and obviously it looks like it's going to kind of change up their lineup to some degree, right? Like I think we're going to see Ozuna and Olsen regularly hit in the 3-4 spots, and maybe Riley too, but the leadoff spot looks like it's going to be a platoon between Ozzie Albies and Michael Harris. Jared Kelenic, I think, and Adam Duvall are just going to pretty much start every game in left and right field. And, the Braves don't do really pinch hitting whatsoever. So those guys become, I think, interesting nightly plays, especially while they are still cheap. And, yeah, it does make the Braves slightly more affordable to stack. I certainly think they're in play tonight, Steve, against Mr. Jake Irvin pitching for the Nationals. He hasn't been terrible this year, but I still do think he is a pitcher and overall that you want to target, especially with left-handed power. He's got a kind of a long history of giving up a lot of hard contact to lefties, a lot of home runs. And so, yeah, the Braves, Michael Harris leading off. I assume he'll be a popular play. I think rightfully so. And then Matt Olson, one of my favorite plays on the slate as well. Of course, you can go to the full stack here if you want to, but it is the lefties that I like slightly more. Jared Kelenic himself, I think, is a pretty good value down there in the 7 hole at 3K. And then Max Fried going for the Atlanta Braves. Been kind of a bizarre season for him, frankly. He's had some really, really bad games and then some absolutely dominant games. Threatening a no-hitter, 3 or 4 times this year, I think. Pitched a complete game, his second of the year. Last time out against the Cubs. First one came against Miami back on April 23rd. They let him go, 100-plus pitches most times out at this point. 41 DraftKings points last time out for Fried. Price hasn't moved much. 8,800 still seems like a good spot there. And then a Nationals team, that we don't really fear. They did get Lane Thomas back, who's one of their better hitters, but still, I think a decent enough matchup for Fried. I'm a little bit worried about the strikeout upside, but he pitches so many innings and goes so deep into games that, he doesn't need to get 2 Ks an inning, right? Well, 1 an inning will do when you pitch 7 or 8 innings all the time. So Max Fried, I think, in play at 8,800. He didn't quite make my list. I do think it's a strong pitching slate overall. I did see Fried, your write-up for him in the playbook. So I know you've got at least a little bit of interest in Max Fried, but talk to me, Nationals and Braves, kick off the slate.
Yeah, like you said, Fried just had kind of a strange season. The upside clearly there. Like you said, he's gone 100-plus pitches in 4 of his last 5 starts, so the duration is there. That game against the Cubs was in kind of a tough weather wind spot at Wrigley too. Is super impressive there. Nats have been striking out more of late, especially in the split. I think they're up to 5th highest over the last few weeks. They did get Lane Thomas back yesterday, which is definitely going to help them overall. Probably their best bat, I think, in that entire lineup outside of Abrams. So yeah, I think he's in play. 8,800 here. We got a good projection on him. I think he's an interesting pivot to Gossman. I think Gossman a better raw play in that range. We'll get to that game, but I think that we might have some weather issues at least to begin that game. So something to watch there. The Braves bats, yeah, the Acuna news obviously awful, but it makes them just easier to stack. You don't have to jam in this 6,200 guy. Instead you get Kelenic or Duvall. So, you're saving 2,500 just off the bat there. And yeah, getting back both Riley and Murphy at the same time is huge. Just lengthens the lineup. And Murphy's cheap here to start out, 3,500. I played him yesterday. Obviously not going to, be that cheap for long. So yeah, I'm in on Braves here. Irvin's not a guy that you're avoiding whatsoever. So yeah, I have interest in Fried here. I don't think I'm going to play him on a main lineup coming off that huge game, but I just think he just feels safe, right? Like I don't think he's going to have a spike game like I think a couple of other pitchers could, but he just kind of seems comfy, under 9K at home as a huge favorite against the Nats here.
Yeah, my problem with Fried is like I think we kind of have the same take where it seems like the upside is maybe somewhat limited here with the potential lack of strikeouts. And then, he seems safe, but he's had like 4 blow-up games already this year. So when you combine those two, a perceived lack of upside and at least a little bit of, he seems less safe than he should be, I guess. I don't know, just given the struggles at times. So I'm probably going a different direction, play 5 main lineups on most slates. I don't think Fried will end up on any of them. Not 100% sure on that, but mostly it's just due to liking several other pitchers on the slate, both at the high end and the cheaper end of the spectrum. So I think Fried, totally fine play, just barely did not make my list tonight.
I will note, so he's always been a ground ball guy. He's getting a ton of ground balls. He's up to 65% ground ball rate. That's highest in the league. So, that kind of speaks to him being able to get deep in games. It's the same thing with Framber. He's able to get the double plays when guys get on base. So, that is super impressive. 64.6% ground ball rate so far, highest of his career.
It's like Framber levels right there with Max Fried. So good stuff. Let's go to Toronto and Chicago next. You did mention potential weather issues. I believe this is the only game that we need to be concerned about. Rain in and around the Chicago area. It does look like it's clearing up late. I haven't had a chance to look at the radar recently. I can do it while you're talking about this game and give a take there. But assuming it does play, looks like a pretty good spot for Kevin Gausman, who kind of like Fried has had a pretty crazy start to the year. He's had some dominant starts at times, including last time out against Detroit. He had a big one against the Nationals, against the Dodgers. But he's also been in the negative 3 different times this year. Now, 2 of those were in his 2 of the first 3 starts of the year for Gausman. I think he's pitching through some injury concerns at the time. I think he said as much himself, just kind of trying to, just pitch through it. And maybe it's turned a corner here. Now, he did struggle back on May 11th against the Twins. But obviously, against Detroit last time out, maybe his best start of the year. If he is normal Gausman, the Gausman that we've seen for the last, 3 or 4 years, 8,500 is a bargain for him anyway, and especially, right, against this White Sox team. I know they've been a little bit better recently, but still a very, very bad lineup, and one that, the good version of Kevin Gausman, you would expect him to kind of mow this lineup down. So Gausman at 8,500 makes a lot of sense. Mike Clevenger was scheduled to pitch this game. He has been scratched and placed on the IL. The White Sox called up Jake Woodford, who was on the Cardinals prior to this year, was pitching in AAA prior to this. And this will be his first big league innings of the season for Woodford, who does not appear that he's made any improvements. If you look at the AAA numbers, was being hit around down on the farm, was really awful, frankly, when he did pitch last year. Threw about 50 innings, I believe, last year. And honestly, nothing really looks good. I mean, giving up, can't strike anybody out, walking too many guys, giving up home runs, expected numbers, just bottom of the barrel. Woodford, we should be clear, is making this start not at all out of merit. It's just the White Sox don't have any more pitchers, right? They're throwing out guys like Nastrini. I mean, even Clevenger sucked before this. Saw on Discord, someone said the Toronto went from an A-plus matchup to an A-plus matchup, which seems fair. I will say, I'm pretty sure Woodford's quite a bit worse than even Mike Clevenger is. You got to like the Blue Jays here. They've been better recently. Woodford doesn't really have any splits, so you don't need to worry that all these are almost the entire lineup outside of Varsho and Kiermaier splitting from the right side. Hard to trust the Blue Jays, and I'm sure they'll be I think at least they'll be pretty popular. I think they should be. But yeah, I'm in on this team. I think you can play almost anybody, frankly, in this lineup against Woodford. Bad bullpen, of course, behind Woodford from the Chicago White Sox as well. So in on the Blue Jays, in on Gaussman. Pretty much completely out on the White Sox side of it. Gavin Sheets would be the one guy I might be willing to use a one-off on. What about you, Steve? Blue Jays and White Sox?
Yeah, I think the first thing to talk about here is Gaussman. You mentioned the tough start to the year. He did say that like he wishes that he had just gone on the IL. He was pitching through an injury early in the season, so that kind of lines up with what I think we were even talking about when he was going through those starts. It's like maybe there's something that's bothering him. Seems to have turned a corner. This is way too cheap if the weather holds against a bottom 10 offense in baseball. All the estimators are good. His xFIP is more than a full run below his ERA. So yeah, just an awesome spot for Gaussman. Really good price here. And then the Toronto Bats, like you said, they were doing pretty much nothing the first month of the season. They've really turned it around. Our hand in this chart here has Toronto over the last 2 weeks, third in weighted runs created plus, second in ISO. They dropped Springer down to the seventh hole. I think they said for the first time since he made his debut on that awesome Astros team back in the day, he hit a bomb yesterday. Maybe that gets him a bit reset in the head because, obviously a talented guy. So, yeah, I like Toronto a lot. It feels kind of weird because I haven't really used them much at all this season because they've been so bad. But, yeah, just an awesome spot here. And with cores on this slate with two team totals over 5, maybe we get this spot a little lower owned than it should be. Like you said, Woodford, just terrible numbers. 2.08 home runs per 9 last season is just atrocious. Walked a lot of guys, over 4 walks per 9 last season too. So yeah, this is an all systems go spot for Toronto on both sides, pending the weather. Like I said, it just started raining here. What are you seeing there with the weather? Did you take a look?
I actually forgot. I'll look it up right now if you have anything else to say.
So with this Toronto lineup, the prices have come up a bit. Like Bo Bichette at 4,300, obviously too talented for that price tag. Kiermaier's back, like you said. Springer with his struggles is down under 4K. So the lineup is super stackable. Danny Jansen's been great. He's kind of priced up here, but up in the 2-hole, he'll probably be a popular play. I will note at third, we don't love IKF as a player, but third base on this slate, I was kind of playing around with some lineups earlier, DC. Third base, if you're not spending up for, Ramirez, Riley, is really, really tough on this slate. So I expect him to kind of fit a lot of lineups. We're going to talk about the Yankees later. I like the Yankees a lot. They don't even have a third baseman in the pool because they've got LeMahieu coming back, and he's, for some reason, first base only on DK. So, yeah, I like Toronto here. I think that they fit pretty well with other stacks on this slate too.
Yeah, that makes sense. It looks like kind of like scattered thunderstorms around Chicago. So there's going to be rain throughout the afternoon and evening. Potentially could be a risky spot to use Gaussman. It starts to look like a game that could potentially start and then have a mid-game delay in it, which is obviously never good for the starting pitcher. So something to keep an eye on there. I do think the game should, finish tonight. They should get in all 9 innings, but there might be a delay somewhere in there. So I don't think it'll affect bats. Looking to stay on Toronto as much as I can. But yeah, Gaussman, potentially risky, obviously, long time to go before this game, 2 hours, 30 minutes away still. So we'll see. We'll obviously be in the Discord and answer final questions on if it feels safe for hitters, pitchers, and all that stuff. But for now, yeah, it does look like potential issues to me in Chicago for the Blue Jays and the White Sox. 2 more games in this 7:40 Eastern time window. Next one we will discuss is the Brewers and the Cubs. We've got the second highest price pitcher on the slate, and Freddie Peralta, going for Milwaukee. he can be a little up and down at times. You can kind of see it just if you do, the casual scroll through the game log. He's got some hiccups in there, but still a very high upside pitcher in general. One who can generate a lot of strikeouts. One who, if he's on his game, he can really kind of, I think, mow down most lineups, including this Cubs lineup, who has cooled off a little bit. Peralta, he's better against righties, but he's got a high strikeout rate against both sides of the plate. We'll get to Zach Wheeler later. I don't like Peralta quite as much as Wheeler, and they're fairly closely priced. So I don't know how much Peralta I personally will end up on. He's definitely in play. Definitely has upside. Wheeler just feels a little safer to me personally. So interested to hear your thoughts there, of course. And then Ben Brown, who I think he's got a pretty bright future. I like his stuff for the Cubs, but I don't love this matchup. Milwaukee, pretty good against right-handed pitchers in general. And Brown, he did get up to 66 pitches last time out against Atlanta, 4 scoreless innings, and that one pitched really well. So maybe they push him to, 75, 80. He did throw 89 pitches, his season high back on May 2nd. So I do think they're going to build him up to be, just a normal rotation starter. But I'm not quite sure he's there yet. He's not particularly cheap at 7,300, and I don't love the matchup against the Brewers. So all that probably enough to get me off of Ben Brown, but I don't know who it faces next time out. Could potentially be a spot where I jump on board once he can throw 90-plus pitches, maybe a little bit better matchup. But I'm not really excited to play Milwaukee either because I do think Ben Brown, pretty good young pitcher. So not a lot for the bats here for me. And then, Peralta, I think, is a pretty strong play. Where do you stand, Steve? Chicago Cubs, Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, Peralta, the strikeout upside, obviously there. I just don't trust him as much as the other guys, up top. He just, as a guy who in an age where everyone's trying to get away from throwing fastballs, loves to throw his fastball, right? What's the first thing I saw here, DC, was at least on Sabre, they've got Peralta up near 30% owned and Wheeler under 20. I think I'm with you. I think I'm going to have more Wheeler than Peralta here. I just trust him more. He's getting the huge park upgrade. We'll talk about him later. But yeah, you're playing Peralta for the strikeout upside. And this Cubs lineup right now is striking out a lot. 5th highest rate last 30 days against right-handed pitching. So yeah, I think it's an upside spot. I just think there's more volatility with Peralta than Wheeler here. And then, I'm with you on bats. The only one I kept in the pool is Joey Ortiz there at third base. Like I said, this is a tough slate overall at third base if you're not spending up. So I kept him in the pool. I think he's a fine one-off here, but I'm not going to play any other bats. I think Brown is solid enough. And like you said, I could see us playing him next time through.
Yeah, if Peralta does indeed come in higher owned than Wheeler, I definitely want to be on the Wheeler side of that. Even at even ownership, give me Wheeler. I'm willing to pay the extra $500 there. So yeah, if that's the case, I'll try. If you get if I get a perfect 5-3 bill or something where I need the 500 and Peralta fits, I don't mind it. But I certainly prefer Wheeler in a vacuum. So I'm with you there. I would be kind of surprised personally if Wheeler was lower owned, but yeah, Sabre obviously knows what they're doing, and looks like even more Wheeler. That might turn out to be the case. Next game up, another game where we've got one of the top young pitchers in the game, Mr. Cole Reagan's pitching for Kansas City. Obviously came onto the scene kind of late last year, second half of last year. It's picked up right where he left off. Has been over 30 points in 3 of his last 5, including 39 DraftKings points last time out against Detroit, 12 Ks in that one, 100 pitches, 6 scoreless innings. Dude's a beast. Impossible for me not to just continue to compare him to Garrett Crochet, another one of our top favorite, young pitchers. Another lefty, big guy, hard thrower. Both of these guys crushing it this year. And yeah, Reagan's 10.2K against the Twins team. I think this is kind of a neutral-ish matchup for Cole Reagans, but I mean, that's fine for him. He's good enough to mow down any lineup, including this Twins one. Not a lineup that I fear too much overall. Reagan's actually has a higher strikeout rate rather against right-handed bats over the course of his last 100 innings or so by a pretty big margin, 31% versus righties and down near 23% against lefties. And I believe it'll be 9 right-handers against Reagan. So I think some people might look at that lineup full of righties and maybe be nervous for Reagan's, but not the reaction I had. And yeah, I think he's a strong play here. I think it's close between him and Peralta. I do have Wheeler as my number 1 overall arm, but I think I might prefer Reagan slightly. Interested to hear your thoughts between those two. And then Simeon Woods Richardson pitching for Minnesota. He's had good results so far. I'm not really buying it with him. He doesn't miss a ton of bats. Does a good job limiting walks. So far has limited hard contact. But I don't know. I do think the league probably figures out Woods Richardson as they see him a bit more. I do think the Royals are a pretty good sneaky stack here against Minnesota. So I like the Royals bats, like Reagan's. I looked at Woods Richardson at 6,800. He is obviously pretty cheap and has pitched pretty well results-wise, but couldn't quite get there in the end. Like the Royals bats a little bit better in that matchup. What about you, Steve? KC in Minnesota.
Yeah, Reagan's, we just keep plugging him in even though the price rises, and, it doesn't really matter the matchup for him, I think. We've talked about that a bunch with these talented young left-handed pitchers. I'm just going to continue to play him regardless of matchup. Tougher on-paper spot here against the Twins than his last 2, which were against Oakland and Detroit. It was kind of as expected with this lineup that the Twins run out there against lefties. They've fallen back down to earth a bit in the split, and we've seen that come through in the numbers, not quite smashing. So, there's a bit of concern here with the power that the Twins do have, but I think the strikeout upside is just too good to ignore here. He's got to be in the pool. I think of the top 3, I have it Wheeler, Reagan's, Peralta, but it's close. The $800 could go a decent way on this slate. Pricing's pretty tough. So, I'm in on Reagan's here despite the price bump. He's fully deserved it, obviously. And then, I think the Royals are interesting. I wish they were cheaper. Bobby Witt up over 6K now. Salvi at 5.5. But the back half of the lineup is cheap enough where if you wanted to full stack him here, I'm with you on Woods Richardson. I don't expect him to continue to pitch as well as he has. And the Royals, just kind of consistently have been a top half offense throughout the entire season so far. So I could see myself, I'll probably end up with the Royals having them more as secondary stacks. 5 through 9 here are all between 2,400 and 3,300. So I think they'll probably fit well with other teams that we like on this slate. So I'm in on Reagan's, in on some Royals bats, but probably not like my top stack.
Yeah, I like that kind of 2 through 5 for the Royals. Witt, Perez, Vinny P, and Nelson Velasquez, who showed a lot of power last year. Coming around, he had a horrible start to the season, but has shown some pretty good power as of late. So with you there, not on the Twins at all. I mean, Reagan's not even getting hit hard when he does give up contact, right? He's obviously got the massive strikeouts, but an ISO below 0.1 against both righties and lefties in his career. He's obviously a very, very impressive young pitcher, and maybe goes a little bit under-owned. I think more people are going to flock to Wheeler and Peralta, but we'll see on that. Next one up, Arizona and Texas. We do move to the 8:05 Eastern Time window here. We've got Dane Dunning on the mound for Texas. He's got to be just like the most just average, boring pitcher in the league. Like he doesn't have any particularly big splits. He doesn't do anything particularly.
Sorry, you see, we actually just got news. They're going to go with Eovaldi here off the IL tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's obviously a change because I was going to be big on D-backs bats here. I actually didn't even know that was in consideration for him to come back here.
Yeah, well, that changes things, certainly.
Yeah.
Eovaldi has missed, I think this is going to be close to the minimum. It was I believe, a groin strain. Yeah, groin strain for Eovaldi back on, I guess not the minimum. That was back on May 2nd. So it's been, 3.5 weeks. I don't know. In terms of the pitch count, my guess is that Eovaldi, they probably kind of let him go here. But again, don't know that for sure. 8,600 for him is kind of enticing if he's the full version of himself. Not super terrible matchup against the D-backs. Honestly, haven't dug into that one too much. Obviously, with the late news there on Eovaldi, will probably take me off of the D-backs for the most part. I really like Jock Peterson. A little bit less interested in him now, obviously, with Eovaldi. And then Brandon Pfaadt pitching for Arizona. Second year in the big leagues for him. Been pretty good this year. Prospect of some note, of course. Has had 2 strong games in a row against the Dodgers and Reds. 7,600 for him. I know you included him on your list. I think I'll probably go elsewhere other than Brandon Pfaadt, but I do get it at that price point. Corey Seager, I think, is still an elite one-off against Pfaadt, who has, you look over the course of his career, he's given up a lot of power to left-handed bats, 224 ISO to lefties over the course of his career. Seager absolutely on fire. I think he is one of the best one-offs on the slate, especially considering he'll probably be very low owned, given that I don't think that many people are stacking Texas here, which I'm not doing either. But Seager is certainly on the short list. What are you doing with the Eovaldi news? And talk to us about Brandon Pfaadt, because I know you have some interest there.
Yeah, I was going to have interest in the Snakes bats here, but I don't think I want to attack Eovaldi even coming off of the injury. I was excited, because Carroll's under 4,500. You said Peterson's hitting the ball well late. Jake McCarthy's back. So that's kind of out the window for me. I do like Pfaadt a little bit here. I think he's at least in play. So he's 7,600. We have a good projection on him compared to the industry. Captain's been good at nailing these cheaper pitchers at low ownership. I'm seeing 3 to 5% right now ownership on Pfaadt. Not super scared of this lineup outside of Seager, and his underlying numbers are way better than his surface. He's got a 4.05 ERA, but a 3 expected ERA, 3.5 xFIP. The Rangers outside of Seager haven't done a lot of late. 23rd weighted runs created plus over the last 2 weeks. So I think he's in play. It was really hard for me to narrow my pool down at pitcher here on this slate. So I've left him in there for now, but he's definitely so I listed 9 guys. He was definitely 8th or 9th. Not going out of my way to jam him, but I think he is in play here. After all that, probably not going to have too much from this game overall, except leaving those left-handed Arizona bats in my pool.
I don't know if you had the same reaction, but when I was kind of just trying to build lineups, it seemed like there's a lot of really good expensive hitters that I wanted to play and not that many cheap guys.
Especially at certain positions like third that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I just couldn't find much cheap guys, which obviously, makes me want to spend down to pitching and pay up for bats. But that's the case. Sometimes you got to let the slate dictate a little bit where you want to go. So we'll see. Sometimes some, value bats emerge that we didn't expect, stuff like that, as lineups continue to come out. But at least right now, it looks like a slate where I do want to spend up on bats where I can. Obviously, some very good expensive pitchers on this slate as well. That's 5 of the 10 games. So halfway through this slate, good time to remind you guys, hit the like button. Does help us out a ton. And of course, we've got all sports that you need for DFS betting purposes over at Run Pure Sports. You can use promo code DC15 for 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. Let's get to Coors Field. up next, kind of in its own time slot here. We've got Cleveland and Colorado. Ryan Feltner pitching for the Colorado Rockies. I know both of us, Steve, have been on him at times. I believe you used him last time out against Oakland, came through there. 22 fantasy points for 6K. That always works. That, of course, wasn't in Oakland, so a bit of a difference. But Feldner has actually performed slightly better at home in Coors Field so far this year. Coors hasn't been the, the absolute just slam dunk that we've seen in some other years, at least so far. That could certainly change as the weather warms up here in Colorado. It is going to be pretty nice, 75 degrees. And some wind blowing out. So it will play, of course, very hitter-friendly, as it always does in this one. But Feldner, he's done a pretty good job of limiting, a damage overall. Really doesn't give up a ton of power to either handedness. Just a 109 ISO allowed to opposing left-handed bats, which obviously is a lot of the Cleveland lineup. So I don't know. I'm kind of trending toward maybe being a little bit lower on this Guardians team in Coors Field than some other people might. They're very expensive, at least the bats that you want are for the most part. And yeah, I do have at least a little bit of faith in Feltner I'm not playing Feltner, but I think it's possible he could limit the damage here, at least in terms of home runs given up. And then Tristan McKenzie pitching on the other side. We talk about it every time, but it doesn't seem like he can keep getting away with it. He does kind of, he's had 6, 7 at least decent starts in a row, despite walking 3-4, 3-3, putting a lot of guys on base. He's not missing many bats. I don't trust McKenzie at all as a pitcher. He is much worse, it seems, against lefties. Unfortunately, the Rockies don't have many of them, right? I mean, they've got McMahon there, who I think is an awesome play. The only other lefty in the lineup is Charlie Blackmon, who I'm just not sure I can play anymore, Steve. If you look at like his underlying metrics, he's just not hitting the ball hard at all.
He's the first guy I X out on every slate.
Yeah, just cue up the home run, I'm sure, but just very, very little power at the moment. Of course, hit 2 doubles and a home run yesterday, but
yeah,
for the most part. Blackmon, not someone that I'm going to play a ton of, especially because I think a lot of people are going to load up on Blackmon tonight. I'll be looking elsewhere. Love Ryan McMahon, but I don't love the rest of the Rockies all that much, despite having no faith at all in McKenzie. Probably be a night where I'll be lower on Coors Field than the field will be. What about you, Steve? Rockies, Guardians, and Coors Field tonight.
Yeah, we finally got the good Feltner start last time out. His stuff is good. The underlying numbers are all good. I think he's going to continue to improve here. The Guardians are going to be super popular on this slate, but like you said, they're really expensive, and I kind of like other expensive spots a little better than them, especially given the ownership. I think I'm more interested in the Rockies side here. We did see McKenzie give up 3 bombs finally last start against the Mets, and now going to Coors as an extreme fly ball guy. Like, if this isn't the spot where he finally gets touched up, we might have to stop chasing it. So yeah, no, I like McMahon the most here. I bumped him up. I actually like Brenton Doyle as a player. He's got some good speed. I think he's got 15-ish steals now on the season. So I kind of like him. McMahon might be the guy that I go to. I keep bringing up this third base position on this slate. If I can spend down at my second pitcher, I think playing McMahon might be the way that I go here. So yeah, I'm more on the Colorado side. I'll keep a couple of the Guardians in the pool here, mostly for secondary stacks. That's kind of how I play the road team. If I'm not playing them full stacks, I do want to have them in the pool available for one-offs and stuff. So yeah, no arms here. And hopefully Colorado can get to McKenzie in this spot.
Yeah, we did get the Cleveland lineup just now. Thanks to Power for posting that. Yeah, maybe like I could see a bottom of the order, Manzardo, Brennan, Bo Naylor, something like that. Pretty cheap down there.
Yeah.
And looking at the Rockies bullpen. They used Rogers, the lefty, for like the whole game yesterday, through 71 pitches.
Yeah.
And then their other lefty in the pen is their now closer, Jalen Beeks, who also pitched yesterday and has pitched 2 of the last 3 games. So probably no lefties coming in for the Rockies in this one, which, I think, guys like Bo Naylor, Manzardo, and Brennan, like I talked about, should be safe from pinch hitting tonight. So kind of like those guys. Maybe I'll do a little Cleveland mini stack and get a little bit different with the bottom third of the order there. Let's get to the New York Yankees and LA Angels up next. Pretty standard weather here in LA, 70 degrees, some winds blowing out, a little bit humid. And then, we've got Nestor Cortez going for the Yankees, who's got some pretty crazy home road splits, averaging 26 fantasy points per game at home and 8 on the road. ERA around 1 at home compared to close to 7 on the road. I'm not sure what is up with that, but if you're buying into that, maybe some of these Angels bats make sense. I like Rengifo, Ward, Pilar, Ohapi, Adele. I think the Angels have some, contrarian stack appeal up against Nestor Cortez, who I'm not going to pay $9,500 for myself. And then Griffin Canning down at $5,500. I've used him some in good matchups, and he's generally kind of come through. I'm not really playing any right-handed pitchers against the Yankees right now, and that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. The best team in the league by far against right-handed pitchers. Juan seems to have kind of just – you don't want to give him credit for other players hitting well, but, man, it seems like he's kind of changed that team for the better. And, Soto himself is an awesome play, of course, but Judge, Verdugo, Stanton, Torres have started to hit. And Griffin Canning, pretty nondescript pitcher. You can use just about anybody against him. I do think this entire Yankees lineup looks pretty damn good to me here. Soto, Judge lead the way, but I don't really mind going to the other guys as well if I'm going for the full Yankees stack. Got to be on the short list for just about anybody tonight, I would think, the New York Yankees. Where do you stand on them, Steve? And then are you willing to go with some of these right-handed bats against Nestor Cortez?
Yeah, I think this is my favorite spot on the slate on both sides here. Love the Yankees. I feel like on every show that I'm on, they're my favorite stack, but they just keep coming through, especially against right-handed pitching. We've talked about as long as this lineup stays healthy, I don't see a reason for that to stop. They do get LeMahieu back here. I wish he was eligible at third on DK. He's not. That should probably change soon, but he's 3,300. So that kind of helps balance out the stacks. You start with Soto, Judge, Volpe, and kind of play whoever else fits, right? So love the Yankees here against Canning. He's just, extreme fly ball pitcher with home run issues. Expected ERA and xFIP both bottom 3 on the slate. Just a perfect spot for the Yankees bats. Hopefully they get a bit overlooked with cores on the slate. I'll be having a Yankees 5-man in my main lineup. And then, on the other side, you mentioned the home road splits. He's gotten just absolutely wrecked in all 5 road starts. I don't know what it is about that, but like in ERA in year 7, 5 home runs in 25 innings. And the Angels have just been awesome in the split of late, 4th in weighted runs created plus, 4th in ISO over the last month. I think we just got the lineup here. Super cheap back half of lineup. We got Paris starting, Tucker's starting. Both of those guys are 2,500 or less. Pilar has just been awesome, stealing bags too. So really like the lineup that they put out. We got Ohapi, we got Adele. Love the Angels here. Might just game stack this one on my main DC. I think that people are going to click Nestor just because he's been so good. And the Angels team total isn't great, but yeah, give me Angels over Nestor, and I'm just going to load up on other pitching in that range instead of playing Nestor on the road here.
Yeah, we'll let other people click Nestor. We're not playing Nestor here. I'm with you on the Angels that 2 through. Yeah, I mean, probably not playing lefty Nolan Chanuel, but I think the other 8 guys, frankly, are pretty decent plays. And then, the Yankees, the Angels don't really have anybody good coming out of the pen. So assuming they can knock Canning out pretty early, could be a big day, of course, as always, for the Yankees offense. Houston and Seattle is up next as we stay on the West Coast. This one at 9:40 Eastern time. Luis Castillo and Hunter Brown going to be pitching. We know, very well who Castillo is. He's had 2 rough starts in a row. Well, they did both come on the road in New York. Obviously, just talked about the Yankees and in Baltimore, 2 of the tougher places to pitch for a right-handed pitcher. Only 3 and 2 strikeouts in those 2, but we mention it all the time. There's a couple teams like this, but the Seattle pitchers just in general pitch much better at home, of course, than they do on the road. He will be at home here. I still don't think I'm getting to Castillo at 9,200 against this Astros team. There's still a lot of low strikeout rates up and down the lineup. Really, not very many high strikeout rates at all. We know what guys like Tucker and Alvarez can do, of course. So I'm off Castillo here. It wouldn't surprise me to see him have a good game, but it won't be in my lineup personally. And then Hunter Brown pitching for Houston. He obviously had that horrible outing back on early in the season, April 11th against KC. 9 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning. Didn't even get through 1 inning. He's been better since. Nothing, fantastic or anything like that. But he is a full-on starter who's going to give you 90-plus pitches almost every time out. The walks have been a problem. He's been mediocre. There's no way around it. The season-long stats don't look great. He is coming off a pretty good year, and, a lot was expected of Hunter Brown. So a pitcher like him, I do think, has some talent. And I've got quite a bit of interest, frankly, here against this Mariners team. We know they are very strikeout heavy. We know Mariners Stadium is one of the better places to pitch for any pitcher, of course, with the home run suppression. It's a good place for strikeouts as well. 6,500 for Brown on a slate where there's a lot of big bats to pay up for, I think is a pretty reasonable play. He'll be on some of my lineups almost certainly. Where do you stand on this one, Steve? Houston and Seattle.
Yeah, Brown's not a guy who played all season, but I think this might be the spot, right? Definitely going to be volatile. It's the best strikeout spot on the slate. But just like his issues with walks and power, his range of outcomes is going to be wide. So, I do think that he's got really nice upside for the price tag here against Seattle. I think it's one of those spots where you can probably play both sides of it. Like, I wouldn't mind playing a couple Seattle power bats against him too, just kind of hunting that power, that big inning that he has been prone to. But yeah, like his strikeout prop on DK right now, over 5.5 is -150. You just don't see that at that price tag too often. So I think he is a good play here at that price tag at 6,500. We have a good projection on him. Not a comfy click, right? But I think, like we've said, a lot of the spots that we like are pretty expensive. So I think that he fits a lot of what we are trying to do here. I think him versus Waldron, who we'll talk about next, is also interesting. And then, for me, I'm not going to be on Houston bats here, even though I'm not playing any Castillo. I just think, he probably has a so-so game here. But at these price tags on the Houston bats, I'm probably not playing them either. So for me, it's going to be me playing some Brown and some Seattle one-offs, mini stacks, just targeting the power bats.
Yeah, I do think the lefty power from Houston is decent. A decent play, decent contrarian plays. Tucker, Alvarez, and Singleton would be the 3 guys that I would consider from Houston. Two more games to get to. First one we'll talk about Miami and the San Diego Padres. We've got the sometimes knuckleballer Matt Waldron on the hill for San Diego. He's been a little bit better recently. He had 3 pretty good starts in a row for Waldron. Tough competition at Atlanta and the Dodgers, 2 of those 3. He's at home here, 6,200. He gets a Miami team that is awful and strikes out quite a bit. Waldron, he's near the top of my list today, honestly, at pitcher at 6,200. And then your guy, the Lizard King, Jesus Luzardo, had an injury scare, but came back after missing close to the minimum amount of time and has pitched well 3 straight outings. All of those did come at home. But he's looked really, really good. Only 1 walk in those 3 outings combined, which can at times be an issue for him. So that's been good to see. And it does seem like that time on the injured list may have got Luzardo going in the right direction. I don't love this matchup for him, just not a ton of strikeouts in general in the San Diego lineup. I know they've been striking out more recently, but the long-term numbers in terms of strikeouts versus lefties don't look great for Luzardo's chances for a ceiling game. But he's 8K. He's a more talented pitcher than that price tag would suggest. It is a good place to pitch, of course, in San Diego. And we think he's going to be pretty low owned. So he does have certainly a lot of things going for him. I don't think I'm going to quite get there with Luzardo, but maybe you can talk me into him. I know you are a Luzardo fan. And then what are you doing with Waldron? How do you compare him to Hunter Brown? And I assume you're going to be on the Waldron train, but talk to us here, San Diego and Miami.
Yeah, Lazar's been great since coming back. I thought the IL stint was going to be worse when that was first announced.
Yeah.
So he's had 3 starts since in pretty tough matchups: Philly, Mets, Brewers. 3 top half of the league offenses. Like you said, the only 1 walk in 19 innings. He discussed kind of pulling back a bit on his max velocity to hone in his command, and that seems to have been helping him a bit. So I just think that the price tag's too cheap for his talent level overall at 8K here. The issue is the strikeouts, right? With the Padres lineup. They have been much, much worse against left-handed pitching. I used the Marlins starter last night in DFS against them. The Padres over the last month, 20th in weighted runs created plus, 28th in ISO, so not much power in the split. I do like Luzardo again here. I just trust him. He was bad at the start of the season. All the underlying stuff shows that further regression is coming his way. And just a guy that I kind of trust. So I'll definitely be higher than the projected 5% on him. I think that's pretty egregious on this slate. And then Waldron, like you said, 3 straight good outings in really tough spots. Dodgers at home, at Atlanta, at Cincy.
Yeah.
And now he's back home against a struggling Marlins offense at a depressed price tag. If you aren't playing Waldron at 6,200 here, you're just never playing him, right? So I think that this is the spot for him. What I'm still kind of struggling with personally, DC, is where do I want to end up with my main lineup? We have strong options above 10K. We have strong options at 8K. And I think 2 strong options for the slate in the 6K range. Between Brown and Waldron, I think Brown has the higher upside just because of the strikeout spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think Waldron gets blown up less often than Brown does in this spot, though. So I haven't made a decision personally. I'll probably lean Waldron just because of the matchup, and he's at home as a favorite here. But I think 2 very, very strong options at starting pitcher here, and I'll have no bats in this game.
You willing to use Waldron and Hunter Brown on the same lineup?
The issue is, if the weather here is good, I think you've got 4 or 5 guys who can go for 30 on this slate, and if you get 12 from both of those guys, it's just not going to work. But I'm thinking about it because I want to play the Yankees.
Yeah. Judge, Soto, Seager, Coors Field, like plenty,
Yeah,
plenty of places to spend your savings. So yeah,
I'm leaning towards paying down at least one of the spots. Like we said, we like the Angels here. The lineup that they put out is super cheap, and it works with a lot of the expensive stacks. So I think it's probably the way that I'll go here. Haven't quite decided which of the cheap pitchers I'm going to, but definitely in play. I think you and I probably take more chances with cheap pitching than most other people at RPS, and it's worked out for us. So I like both guys here, and I'll probably be using one of them.
yeah, I'll have one of Waldron or Hunter Brown, I think, on most of my lineups, and I'll definitely have at least one of my main 5 lineups with the combination of the two, and then paying up for, of course, most of the bats that I want to get to. All right, last game on the slate, we'll do, of course, stacks, pitchers, home runs, and offensive player of the day. After we talk about Philadelphia and the San Francisco Giants. 7 total in this one, lowest on the slate. Zach Wheeler going for Philly. As steady as they come. He had that one really weird outing, day game in Miami. I just kind of just write it off, frankly. And then he's been good at pretty much every outing this season. Certainly on the short list for best pitcher in the league. And gets this Giants team that continues to be hit by the injury bug. Lost Conforto earlier. Just lost Lamont Wade, who was, I think he's way up there in terms of, on base percentage. And definitely kind of a thorn in the side, especially to right-handed pitchers. So big loss for the Giants lineup, but more benefit to Zach Wheeler, who is my personal SP1 today. Now, he's expensive. 11K on DraftKings. But, against this lineup, there's plenty of strikeouts. And Wheeler, if he has any weakness, it's not really a big one, but he does give up some power to lefties. But, the Giants don't really have any lefty power left. And it's obviously one of the harder parks for lefties to go deep in San Francisco. So, Wheeler's got, I think, just about everything working in his direction for this one. The only thing that's not, of course, is the high price tag. And I thought maybe high ownership, but perhaps not, at least if we go off some of the ownership projections around the industry. So I like Wheeler. I'll definitely have him on at least one of my teams, maybe 2. No Giants bats. And then what are the Giants doing at pitching? I'm seeing
I think they're going to use an opener and then Spencer Howard, the ex-Philly and Rangers.
Howard, but it looks like Eric Miller might open the game. Matchup-wise, pretty good spot for the Phillies. Just I don't often go to San Francisco when there's pretty much a full slate of ballparks and offenses to pick from. So I don't think I'll end up on much Philly, but wouldn't be surprised to see them blow up this kind of a bullpenish team for the Giants. Your thoughts here on Wheeler and this game in general, Steve?
Yeah, like price agnostic. I think Wheeler's the best play on the slate. He is expensive, but man, you can't ask for a better park upgrade for one. Wade is gone. Conforto's already on the IL. So yeah, it's just a super clean spot for Wheeler. Best expected ERA in the slate, 2.76. Backs up his 2.53 ERA. He's been so damn good outside of that one start, like you said. He faced the same team at home a couple starts ago and was absolutely dominant. I think he put up 35, 38 DK. I could see that here again, right? I think that he's the most, him and Reagan's, I think, by far are the most likely to just kind of break the slate at pitcher here. I'm not sure if I'm going to get up to him on my main team. I probably won't, just because, like you said, or like we've said, we do like the more expensive stacks in the slate. But there isn't anything that I could say that is a knock on Wheeler, especially in this spot. The Phillies, I think, are a fun stack for the late slate. I don't really like that much late offense in this or on this slate tonight. So I think that they're kind of interesting. Sabre has a higher team total on them than I had expected. But yeah, they're just so expensive on DK. Schwarber's at 5.5, Real Muto 5.2, Harper 6K, Bohm is up to 5.9, Stott at 5.1. I think they're just too expensive on the slate. So I'm probably playing 0 bats from this game. And then I'm going to try to be over the field on Wheeler. DCI play 20 lineups. The current projection has him just below 20%. So I'll definitely be above the field there on Wheeler tonight.
Yeah, I'll probably end up playing him on 2 of my 5 would be my guess. So I should be comfortably over the field there at on 40% of my own lineups. All right, that is all 10 games. Got some lineups still rolling in. Nothing too surprising yet. Let's get to stacks first. Favorite overall stack, Steve, and then favorite contrarian stack. Go ahead if you're ready.
Yeah, my favorite overall stack is the Yankees tonight. I'm definitely going to have 5 Yankees on my main lineup if I can make it work with the pitchers I want. And it kind of works out for me. My favorite contrarian stacks is going to be the Angels in that same game. I think that they fit really well, especially with the lineup that they put out. They have some cheap middle infielders. I was talking all slate, waiting for a cheap third baseman, and there's one in the Angels lineup. So, he's not an exciting guy, but, if he makes everything else work, I'm okay with that. I'm willing to buy in to the Cortez struggles on the road, plus just how hot this Angels lineup has been against lefties. I think that they're a fun contrarian stack on this slate.
Yeah, I like the Angels too, a bunch as a contrarian stack. But I'll go with my contrarian stack as the Royals against Simeon, Woods, Richardson. I think they'll be very low owned. Bobby Witt, as hot as anybody right now, just crushing the ball. And I don't really believe in Woods, Richardson in general. So I do like the Royals as a contrarian stack. My favorite overall stack, going to be the Blue Jays against Jake Woodford. Given the data we have on him, we can be pretty sure he is nowhere near major league starting pitcher quality. Jays have been heating up. We'll have to keep an eye on that weather in Chicago with the Blue Jays, but assuming it looks okay for bats, I'll be getting as much Blue Jays into my lineup as I can. Most important pitcher on this slate for me, I'm going to mix it around a little bit, but it is going to be Matt Waldron that I'm riding with today. He'll get some ownership for sure. Wouldn't honestly surprise me to see him steamed up a little bit from what's he projected at down? My SaberSim's actually not working, 20% or something like that for Matt Waldron.
Yeah.
I bet it'll be higher, but I'm going to play a lot of Matt Waldron, partly because I want to pay for bats, and then partly because I do think he's going to have some success here against this Marlins team. So Matt Waldron will be my most important pitcher. What about you, Steve?
It's got to be Luzardo. I just can't believe he's under 5% here. Like we said earlier, not a slam dunk spot by any means, which is why he's going to be low. But I just think he's underpriced. I think that the talent level is too good for the tag. I think everyone is going to go to Gausman here. I love Gausman as well. I'm actually looking at playing both of these guys. So we really like the 8K range overall. But as far as who I'm playing versus the ownership, it would have to be Luzardo or Zach Wheeler as my most important pitcher tonight.
All right, let's get to a home run call. Yeah, you got yours ready, Steve? Home run call for the people?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the Angels here. Hot bat, been crushing left-handed pitching. Kevin Pillar hitting cleanup tonight. It's my home run call of the slate.
I will stick with my original one. I'm less confident in it now, but Jock Peterson just been killing right-handed pitching all year. He hits Eovaldi instead of Dane Dunning, which isn't ideal. But I do think Jock Peterson, 4,100. I think only one lefty in the pen for the Rangers, so Jock should be able to avoid the pinch hit. We'll see on that one. But Jock Peterson taking Eovaldi deep tonight. Let's finish it off here then with our favorite overall hitter on the slate. What do you got for us, Steve?
I'm going to go to that Coors game, but on the Colorado side, we mentioned him earlier. I'm going to go with Ryan McMahon at third base. McKensley gave up 3 bombs last time. Hopefully that continues. Just a perfect spot for him to finally get blasted here.
Love it. I will go We go to the bottom of the Guardians lineup with Mr. Kyle Manzardo. He's 3K, can certainly use the savings. One of the top prospects, has shown some signs of life here, and I think these Guardians bats are going to be safe from pinch hit risk given the state of the Colorado bullpen right now. So Kyle Manzardo, 3K, hitting 6 for the Guardians tonight. That'll do it for this show. Appreciate all you guys watching. Hit the like button if you haven't yet done so. We do appreciate that. And the show will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Good luck in your lineups, everybody. Hope we'll see some of you up top, some RPS logos up top, and the start of the first ever NBA 3-0 comeback starts tonight. Go Wolves.